class you have, there's likely to be an international student. That means if you're sitting at lunch with 10 people around a table, you'll have 1 or 2 international students in that conversation if you're successful in integrating that experience. And so that's one of the things that we have sought to do, to internationalize the university, bring that international experience home to the university, while at the same time emphasizing the importance. This is not a substitute for somebody going and spending 6 months or a year, but there are many barriers to that, including language, especially for American students. There aren't that many places where there are enough American students. Even a traditional place like Germany, where I studied, it's not that easy anymore to find students who speak German. It's easier to find students who speak Spanish, and one of the reasons, frankly, we've put some emphasis on India is they have some very high-quality educational institutions that instruct the students in English, but they're going to school with Indians, right? You're not putting them in an overseas bubble, as many programs do, but rather putting them in an Indian environment, but where the language of instruction is English. So I think I've about exhausted my time, and I'll just say that I think in this respect, the goals that you have here of the Gulen Institute, of building an international community of understanding, is something that universities very much share, and that our obligation really is to have faith ultimately in people, and the knowledge that if we bring them together and expand their experience, expand their horizon, make them familiar with the problems that people around the world face, that we can build better citizens for the future. And frankly, it's not just, I don't want to be messy, it's not just building global citizens, it's building better American citizens as well. People who will help this country, as well as the world, solve its problems and build a peaceful and prosperous future. Thank you very, very much.
As you seek to give a global education to your students, could you give a little more detail on what you see the balance between the local international campus and foreign study in the future of Rice?
So we actually, it's funny because we think both the local and the international is what's important, which isn't to say we're not good Americans, but there's less attention, in fact, you have to give it. And so locally, we think engaging our students, and we have this program we call the Passport to Houston, for example, which I'm always explaining. It's not because when I came down here 5 years ago, I thought Houston in Texas was a foreign country and you needed a passport. But we give our students free transport on the metro, free membership in the museums. We have special nights at the cultural institutions. We have a program of civic engagement. We think that needs to be part of their education. And it's part of our advantage. I mean, one of Rice's big advantages is we have this beautiful 300-acre campus really in the center of the 4th largest city in the United States. There are not very many universities who are actually positioned in that way. So we think that's important. I think they ought to, the flip side of that is they ought to try to have an international experience. There's room for both of those. I think for some of our students it's a challenge, particularly in engineering, to some extent in science, certainly our athletes, our musicians, our architecture students. Those are all people whose schedules are so compressed and so busy that we need to find special ways to enable them to have that experience. And maybe they can't have a semester experience. Maybe we have to make it more of a summer experience of some kind. One of the things we've added to the India program are internships in India where students go and work for the summer. That's also a very valuable experience. So I think we're experimenting. I think probably as we've been learning, I think one of the things we've really learned is it's probably going to pay off to put a little more emphasis on the summer internship experience as a very valuable experience for students, something that they can go to, has less financial consequence for them, and frankly also less financial consequence for the university. It doesn't raise the issues of, one of the problems we've run into is even where the institutions are very selective, such as the IITs in India, the Indian Institutes of Technology. They're very selective, very high-quality students. Instruction is in English, very ambitious when it comes to engineering, but their pedagogy is very different than American pedagogy, and not necessarily from our point of view in a constructive way, or something received well by our students. And so that's another thing we have to deal with, is whether that's the best kind of experience. So I think we're still feeling our way a little bit with that, but we don't think the local and the international are at odds. The last thing I'll say is, it also makes us hesitant to acquire things of students. I'm always, I'm a great believer in languages. I think it's a wonderful ability to be able to communicate with somebody in their language. But I actually don't favor making a language a mandatory requirement, because who am I to say that you're better off spending the time learning a language than developing a deeper appreciation of art? I cannot make that judgment for somebody. Oh, jeez, that's beautiful.